questions. On the first one regarding whether there was physical abuse by prison officers, from the inmates that we interviewed, because we a commission that deals with empirical evidence, in our report, and I'm hoping that and inviting you to also take the trouble to go through our report, so I believe on our website, we received reports of severe police brutality, that is abuse and torture during arrest, including being beaten with batons, fists, boots, and the barrels of guns. This is by the police. And among those who experienced this had injuries from the indiscriminate assaults, including head injuries, eye and ear injuries, back pain, and dislocations. We visibly saw swollen body parts. There was a gentleman with I think the medical people call it a contusion just on his hand here. And then somebody had an eye that was like oozing some stuff. And these are the ones that these ones had not even informed very sadly, the prison officials, and they'd been there for a very long time by this time. And we did not receive a complaint of abuse, physical abuse by prison officers, but by police officers at the time that they were arrested. What the prisoners and inmates complained of was they complained that they were stripped in prison. They were stripped naked and searched during searching and security procedures. And they felt that their privacy and their human dignity was violated, that they would be searched in that way. And this is, and the Commission continues to urge the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services to adopt more humane approaches in searching, and even technology can assist, but also even in the manner that is done. And again, that we urge anyone who is, and we thank you, the media, for being here, because the inmates are not here. We hope that they will also, that we continue to urge them also to file complaints with the prison hierarchy if they encounter violations of their rights, so that the officers in charge can deal with these issues if there are tendencies that are bad. And we find that this torture is in violation of Section 53 of the Constitution. And as the Commission, again, we urge that we continue to urge our government to ratify the United Nations Convention Against Torture. We are one of the 2 African countries of the 54. We are one of the 2 that are left that have not ratified this convention. Yet our Constitution actually guarantees protection from the right to torture. There's no reason why we shouldn't ratify it. Because when we ratify it, it will become even easier to deal with such issues, because we can then have a dedicated law against torture. And if it ratifies the optional protocol against torture, we can then establish as a nation a special mechanism to prevent, because we need to prevent this. There is no reason whatsoever why a person should be tortured during arrest. Arrest should just be arrest. A person's freedom is taken away. They should not be beaten up and injured unless they are resisting arrest. But it should not be torture at all ever. So we didn't. But what we also got complaints about bullying by fellow prisoners. That was also disturbing, and this is one issue that we are bringing to the attention of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, that there are inmates who are at Harare Remand Prison. It could be happening in other prisons, that are being bullied by fellow prisoners. And again, sadly, they had not reported this to the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services. And we are going to also, because we continue to engage with the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, and we hope to also facilitate processes whereby inside the prisons they will be better able to deal with these complaints that people have, but they don't come forward and let them know, so that they can deal with them in terms of also even amongst the inmates themselves. That there were some who were saying that they would be charged a ticket to get into their cell by fellow inmates. So this kind of practice is something that needs to be dealt with. And then I answered the question of the prolonged pretrial detention. Indeed, this is cause for concern. One of the issues that one of the ways that the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission sees this as solvable is what it is that is actually happening here, that this court, that raising the issue and publicizing it and engaging with the relevant authorities, because in this particular case, when we investigate and come up with reports by this, we are going to find out also from the Judicial Service Commission and seek to understand why it is, because we are compiling our statistics and the incidents, that why it is that when we are seeing a trend, a disturbing and worrying trend that should be stopped, that when people who are arrested, who are either themselves of political interest or their cases are of political interest, they do not seem to get bail. They stay in remand for a long time. Yet every day, right now on a Monday, today it's before 12 o'clock. If we go around our country and look at all the remand courts, we go to Court 6 at Harare Remand Prison, Harare Magistrates Courts, there are already hundreds of Zimbabweans who have been granted bail. And if we go across the country, by now we have thousands of Zimbabweans who have been granted bail, because we are doing extremely well as a country, because this was not there before. Bail was not a right like this, and we are doing very well, hundreds, but thousands. Well, one of the few countries that have entrenched it. But we experience issues like this when matters of political interest are the ones that are just standing in their way of doing extremely well all the time. So these are issues that the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission will engage with, particularly the Judicial Service Commission, seek to understand what the issues and factors and problems could be. We also engage with the policymaker, that is Parliament, as well the Portfolio Committee, as well as the Ministry of Justice, because as well as the National Prosecuting Authority, to find out where is this blockage coming in? Why? Because the right to freedom is being enjoyed. People are getting their bail. But we have these blockages, and they tarnish our image as a country, because we are really doing otherwise so well. And I'm sure these can be addressed, because they also cause problems for the prisons and correctional services, because they just add people there to the scarce resources that they are already battling with. And I'm sure we can do better, and we continue with the engagement and understanding as to how can we improve this, how can we stop this. So this is what we are doing. And then the third issue, the theft by the police and of allegations of thefts of cell phones, and also these injuries. And indeed, yes, our constitution already provides that it guarantees that these behaviors, experiences where a person experiences violence and experiences theft and injuries when they are being arrested, it is against their fundamental rights. And the Constitution also even provides that if the relevant police officer or law enforcement official is liable in their personal capacity as well as the state. So it is so these particular inmates who suffered this, it's hope that they take up their matters, and they can also complain to the police hierarchy itself, because there can also be disciplinary issues, but there can be also damages, because we need to stop rogue arrests of people. So we continue as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission to also publicize that information, so that people assert their rights, and engage also with the police, so that incidents such as these become a thing of the past, that they continue to also deal decisively with those issues. Answer is that we didn't ask prison inmates about this, because our mission, we had no information prior that there were things like that were going on. And what we did was that because we went to find out how those particular people are and what they are facing, and invited them to tell us if there were any issues that they were experiencing. And none of them complained to us that they have seen contraband, because we interviewed Mr. Blessed Mhlanga, and we interviewed the 94 that were there, they did not tell us that, because we didn't go there to, you see, to find, we didn't know about that. And we were not, in our own encounters and investigations, we did not receive that. But however, what is encouraging to note is that, look, there would be deviant practices in every places. In places, there's a crime everywhere. There's crime in prison, there's crime outside, there's crime in churches and homes and everywhere, in families. So what is good is that we were, like I said earlier, that the attitude, the institutional attitude of the Zimbabwe prisons and correctional services, and in this particular case, the officer in charge was very welcoming to, because it was very welcoming to receive complaints, because we actually even sat with him and he was right there, and the cause for concern was that these problems are not being brought to the attention of the prison leadership as they should, because if there is contraband, I think it's in the interest of inmates who see them to go and report, because it's dangerous for them as well. So we encourage that openness to report any incidents of unlawfulness, whether contraband substances, or if they are even implements, because it's dangerous for everyone, for them, the inmates themselves, and for the prison officers. So communication, this is why the right to information is so important, the freedom of expression. It saves lives. So let this be spoken about, let this be taken to anyone who experiences such an issue, should communicate to the prison authorities so that they deal with it. And as a Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, we are looking forward, given our experience at Harare Remand Prison, where we found that inmates will have problems and will be serious problems and suffering, but not letting the prison officials know. We think that as a Human Rights Commission, our role is to promote human rights, and we will engage with Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services to see how that can better be resolved, so that because apparently they have suggestion boxes, they do. They also have officers going around, but there's something we need to improve that, so that everyone who has a problem and also sees whether it is substances or dangerous weapons, immediately notifies the prison leadership, the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services leadership, and does so, it is able to do so in a confidential and safe manner, because everywhere whistleblowing must always be done with the safety of the person concerned, because they live there. So we did not, we didn't get any, because they were very free to talk to us, but also even afterwards, and we encouraged them very much to urge them to let the officer in charge know of any problems. So if there is contraband, we hope they do so, and they actually tell them there and then, so that it is dealt with. If it has of detention or the holding or the residence of people, in its broader mandate of promoting human rights, as well as also being the public protector institution of Zimbabwe, that is the Ombuds institution. And in this particular case, on the 29th of April 2025, the commission, led by myself, went to visit Harare Remand Prison in order to verify and ascertain facts following the arrest of your colleague, Mr. Blessed Mhlanga, and his detention there, as well as 94 detainees who were there after they were arrested over the 31 March protests. The aim of the mission was to investigate allegations of politically motivated pre-trial detention and to ascertain the circumstances surrounding the arrest. As you know, in terms of Section 243, subsection 1G of the Constitution, we are also required as a commission, as one of our functions, to secure appropriate redress if there are human rights violations that are seen. And in this particular case, our visit was also also was able to look at the spotlight on various issues also that pertain to the prisons pertaining to human rights. And on that visit, I therefore managed to establish the following, that there were many detainees, including Mr. Blessed Mhlanga, who faced excessive delays in their legal proceedings, and in particular that were held in prison while they had not been tried, contrary to the right in the Constitution to not be detained without being tried. And we also, and also the others, we also found that in cases of political interest, sadly, there appears to be prolonged pre-trial detention, that is matters of political interest, either the cases themselves or the subject matters, the people themselves. Yet our Constitution requires that everyone who is arrested has the right to be released unless there are compelling circumstances that require that they be released. We also found that some of the inmates reported, the ones that we saw, they reported to myself and the team that I went with significant violations of their rights to several rights, such as the right to education and health care. We found that Mr. Mhlanga, who is a first-year law student, and another student, a University of Zimbabwe economic student who is a first year, were denied the opportunity to sit for their examinations because they were in custody. And we also found that from the reports that we got from the 94 and also Mr. Mhlanga, that the inmates experienced living conditions that are inhumane, mainly because of crowding. This is because we learned that in Harare Remand Prison, the cells that are there are meant to house up to 35 inmates, but because of the crowding problem, there were more than about 80 and sometimes more in the prisons, leading to unsanitary and degrading living conditions because the ablutions are meant for fewer people, and I'm sure you can imagine. And we also had numerous detainees raising allegations of the abuse by police officers during their time of arrest and torture, and including physical violence to them. And there were a lot of them who were actually injured at the point that they were arrested, but we found that they had not let the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services officer in charge know that they required medical attention. They were languishing with their injuries and with their pain, and this was cause for concern. And numerous of the detainees also raised allegations that when they were arrested as part of their abuse that they suffered, they experienced theft of their personal belongings, such as cell phones and money. And some of them also told us that their right to communication and also rights of detainees was also not enjoyed because the telephone lines at Harare Remand Prison were dysfunctional, and they had been dysfunctional for a very long time, and so some of them had not been able to contact their relatives because the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services affords this as it is their duty for inmates to be able to telephone their relatives or their lawyers or whoever it is they want, but the telephone line had not been functioning for a long time, and the telephone company, which is Tel One, had not been repairing it, therefore interfering with those fundamental rights. And the commission and the commission team also found that there were 66 inmates who were irregular migrants from different countries, from here in Africa and beyond, whose detention is in violation of human rights because these particular inmates are not facing any criminal charges and they are not awaiting trial. But unfortunately, our immigration law requires that if a person who is found in Zimbabwe having migrated illegally, they must be taken to prison. And in light of these findings, we urged the relevant authorities to take immediate action to prioritize to prioritize bail applications because they are urgent. that our constitution requires that people have a right to liberty, whoever they are, to freedom, and since bail is a right to be enjoyed by all, unless, as I indicated, there are compelling reasons justifying their continued detention. In this particular case, we were not made aware of any compelling reasons why those particular people, that is Mr. Blessed Mhlanga and the 94 that we also saw, continued to be in remand prison, which is already crowded. We also urge them to conduct thorough investigations into allegations of police misconduct and ensure accountability for any abuses. And also we recommended that prison conditions be continued to be improved so that we reduce crowding or actually eliminate crowding. We should not have crowding at all. Restore communication facilities and ensure access to adequate medical attention for all detainees. And that there be collaboration with university authorities to allow, and other learning institutions to allow detainees who are conducting studies to continue with their educational opportunities. And also that the authorities also take measures to desist from imprisoning irregular migrants so that they are detained in facilities that are specially designed for migrants and not in prisons, so that the problem of crowding of prisons is also alleviated, but also the migrants enjoy their rights to dignity all the time. The Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission provided on-site appropriate redress in accordance with Section 243, subsection 1G of the Constitution in the following manners. We engaged the officer in charge of Harare Remand Prison, and we are happy that he was able to give assurance that those who were injured during the arrest and had not received medical attention were going to be attended forthwith. And we commend the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services for taking such a responsive approach to addressing issues and problems that inmates may face, because all along this was not known, and we actually saw that the process of them actually starting to indicate that they were injured and the required medical attention was already happening. We also advised the inmates to report any complaints that they had to the officer in charge, who indicated that he was welcome. He welcomed any complaints, that he was ready to receive any reports of assaults by prison officers, and also bullying by fellow inmates, because we encountered this as well. And we find it good that it was reiterated, and that there was an invitation again that that inmates must bring to the attention of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services there and then any complaints that they have, or they can do so through their relatives. And we also, as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, encourage also members of the public who have acquaintances and inmates in prisons who encounter problems and due conduct either on the part of prison officers or even problems that people came with, to make sure that they bring them to the attention of the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services leadership, so that they can address these issues. And we are happy that they indicated that they were welcoming them, and that they were not being aware. And it was also arranged by the officer in charge that measures were going to be taken to ensure that medication and food that was brought by visitors would be swiftly taken to the cells, because there were delays in that. We also were happy to see that that was being resolved there and then. And we also, as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, wrote to Tel1, which is a state enterprise, to ensure that it repairs the prison's telephone lines and keeps them in a state of repair, because these are matters of rights of access to information and communication. And because, as we said, we are also the public protector institution, we promote also efficiency in state institutions, and it is unacceptable that critical institutions such as prisons would have telephone lines that are supplied by the state enterprise that are not working. There must always be, there's a reason why those lines are there. We also would contact the universities to mediate so that Mr. Blessed Mhlanga and his 22-year-old fellow student would be able to write the examinations that they missed on account of their being imprisoned. And we also received complaints from the inmates, some from the 94, that they had a grievance, that they had not had the opportunity at all to be interviewed by their lawyers and to tell the lawyers who were representing them what it is that their circumstances of arrest were, and they had not been personally interviewed at all. And the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission became the first lawyers that the 94 prison inmates, most of them were actually speaking with and explaining all these issues of having been tortured by the police and beaten up and had their goods stolen and being injured. And also even their own personal circumstances that also affect bail. So we would also transmitted this grievance because we are in an institution that looks at human rights through and through, and and if there are violations that are committed by whoever, whether it is a state, whether it is individuals, whether it is corporations, we also draw attention to those. And in this particular case, it is the lawyers, because the right of access to justice requires that if a person is represented, they must have opportunity to personally engage as a person directly with their legal representatives so that they can represent them better as full human beings with their dignity. The Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission is encouraged by the positive developments that followed the monitoring mission, whereby some of the above issues were immediately addressed by the Zimbabwe Prison and Correctional Services, as well as also that we were happy to note that Mr. Blessed Mhlanga, as well as the 94 detainees who had been in prolonged pretrial detention, were then granted bail in terms of Section 50, subsection 1, paragraph D of the Constitution. And the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission emphasizes that protecting human rights is of paramount importance. All human rights for all people, all the time, wherever they may be. That there is a need to address all outstanding issues and to uphold the dignity and rights of all individuals, including those that are in detention. The Commission will continue to monitor progress with regards to the above human rights and administrative justice issues, and facilitate appropriate remedies so that we continue to have the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services being funded and receiving also greater budget so that the prison conditions regarding sanitary issues that are exacerbated when people are crowded are, for example, resolved. We also hope to live to see the day when there will be beds back in our prisons and linen and mattresses, because and also maybe more prisons being built. So we continue to encourage and to lobby also Treasury to continue supporting the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, because the dignity of people, even people who are also in custody, is paramount. And I want to end by indicating that we as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission are extremely encouraged by the progress and the continued progress that we see with the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services and their openness, because even for a chairperson of a Human Rights Commission to just say, I'm going to Harare Remand Prison, I'm going to visit Blessed Mhlanga and the 94 people that were arrested, it has not always been the case, but this openness of allowing us and our team to go without notice, because we didn't notify them that we are going to go in at a particular time. This has not always been the case. And also even the openness. And even when we were there, we were also very, very happy to see that there was the innovation called Family Week. For some of the 94 people, we didn't see them immediately because they were busy with their families, and we really we laud that kind of development that has been made by ZPCS to introduce a family week 2 years ago, because previously anyone who has a relative who was in prison, you would know that you visit them on public holidays only. But now we understand with this that we actually witness and saw people were with their families, with children, with babies, that way they were able to see them. They can spend the whole day. We almost didn't see some of the 94 because they were busy with their families, that they come in and they see them twice a week. So we celebrate and are heartened by these continuous developments in our prisons. But like I said, we want to continue to have more improvements, so that being in prison itself, losing one's liberty only becomes the only punishment, but that the conditions continue to improve, so that the human rights of all are encountered. And we welcome the interest by the press in like yourselves in covering and taking an interest in reports about prisons, because it also assists to continue encouraging improvement. And we also we commend the prison services for being open, and we encourage them to continue doing more and more to receive complaints, if there are complaints in prison, so that if there are problems, they can be addressed immediately. And also the immigration authorities, so that they do not also that we find solutions, immigration solutions, and take away immigrants from prisons, because they are increasing the burden on our prisons. And also there's the Judicial Service Commission and the National Prosecuting Authorities, so that they do not compound the already stretched resources in prisons by not according people their right to bail, because imagine 94 people all in prison for a very long time. And sometimes also that some of them end up, and because we learned this from Mr. Blessing Planga, that he was detained for a period that is longer, pre-trial, than what he would be imprisoned for if he is convicted. And clearly, I think this is a travesty of human rights, but also this is not the best use of state resources that in terms of administrative justice. So we continue to encourage all the players involved to remember that when we fulfill the rights of everyone, it's good for the state, it's also good for the fiscus. We use that money for other things that promote other rights, but if we violate them, it becomes a knock-on effect. So this is our statement as the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. Thank you.